Moon chocolate. This is an old story that happened almost 50 years ago. There were cards with anime heroes drawn on them that came with snack foods. The boys all competed to collect them. Each card had a number, and the person who had the newest number card was considered amazing. Some people spent almost all their pocket money on them, and some even went on expeditions to faraway towns to buy them. Since the snacks themselves were terrible, many kids threw them away without even eating them. It became a small social problem because it was such a waste. The year that snack was released was 1971, the same year that Hero Anime was broadcasted. What I am about to tell you happened about a year before that. It was not directly related to that Hero Anime. Anyway, I didn't collect those cards. So I was sometimes left out by my friends, but I found them creepy and no good. I was traumatized by candy cards. I'll tell you why that happened now. When I was in 5th grade elementary school, I lived in Kawasaki back then. Although it's a little cleaner now. In the past, it was in the middle of an industrial area where small factories lined up. The sea was an impossible color and had a terrible smell. My house was on the street of the shopping district in that factory area. There were no video games back then, so all the kids played outside. Also, there were various candy stores around. You could buy them for 5 or 10 yen. The candies had lottery tickets attached, and if you won, you could get one more for free. I thought I knew all the candy stores in the neighborhood. But my friend Kita, who I always played with, came up to me after school and said, "I found a new candy store." Are you serious? It's true. Let's go check it out. So, I followed Kita while still wearing my backpack. We stepped off the usual school route, crossing a canal bridge and arriving at the factory district. Sounds of processing came from various directions. There's no candy store in a place like this, it's not where kids go. I said that. But Kita quickly walked ahead, entered a small path with smells of metal and chemicals. They were probably doing welding and painting there. Then, Kita pointed and said, "There it is," and I saw a sign that said ABC Engine on it. That's not a candy store. It was a 4-door store with concrete flooring. Inside were various parts and tools, and a machine about half the size of a car was visible. On the wall to the right of the store, there really were candies piled up. There were generic gum, Ramune, and candy balls, to name a few. It was so boring. It wasn't worth walking 30 minutes to get here. Kita said, "No, there are amazing sweets here." He spoke to an adult crouching near the machine. "We're here again. Give me the Moon Choco." The person turned around. I was surprised when I saw his face. He wore a metal mask. It was to keep sparks from getting into his eyes when welding. When he stood up, he was slightly taller than us 5th grade elementary schoolers. In a cloudy voice, he said, "Here you go," and opened a metal can on the shelf. Kita said, "2 Moon chocolates," and gave him 40 yen. The person said, "There you are," and handed Kita the chocolates wrapped in silver paper that was the size of his palm from the can. "Buy these, they're very delicious," Kita said. There was nothing written on it, except 4 Moon Choco in blue letters. Kita quickly ripped off the silver paper and gave me half of the chocolate stick inside. I ate it with skepticism. But then, it was really delicious. I have never eaten anything that delicious before. There was a liquid inside the chocolate that was so thick, it felt like my tongue was melting. I thought it was amazing and bought 2 more. I ate them like a beast. Kita opened the wrapping paper after finishing his chocolate and held up a blue cellophane-like paper that was inside up to the sunlight one by one. "What is that?" "It's a lottery card. If you hold it up to the light like this and see a view of the moon, you win." "Right, I know, right?" The man with the iron mask nodded at us and said, "Yes, if you win, you'll be invited to the moon world." I held up the lottery card that came with the Moon Choco I bought and looked through it, but it was just blue cellophane. After that, I became interested in the machine that the man was making. "What is that?" I asked. It's a spaceship. It's almost finished, but the core isn't complete yet. He said that and pointed to the center of the machine. Only that part had a round, light blue glass ball attached to it, which was slightly larger than a basketball. Is this the core? Yes. But I thought the spaceship idea was a joke. It didn't seem like there was enough space for a person to fit in it. The man continued, the moon choco is delicious, isn't it? We import it from overseas. Tell your friends at school about it, too. On the way back, Kita and I talked and said, that was an amazing snack. I wonder if it's really true that it's made overseas. Let's go every day starting tomorrow and bring our friends. The next day, I brought 2 more friends with Kita. Everyone bought 3 moon chocolates and ate them, and they were all impressed. I'll keep coming to buy as long as I have pocket money, they said. As our group of friends grew, about 20 people went to the candy store every day. We were worried that moon choco would sell out, but the man kept bringing out cans of them from the back room. The machine they were putting together seemed to be getting closer to completion, too. The rough shape was becoming smooth. About a week later, there were about 10 people at the candy store when Kita suddenly shouted, "Oh, the view of the moon." He had been looking at that bonus card. I looked at it too, but it was just blue cellophane. Liar, I said. Then the man asked, "Hey, what was the view of the moon like?" Kita immediately answered vigorously, "There was the American flag. It was from Apollo." Then the man said, "Ah, right on," and had Kita write down his name and address. He said they would send him a prize later for getting the answer right. The next morning, Kita was hit and killed in a hit-and-run accident on a Bayshore road away from his home. It was about 5 a.m. and still dark out. He seemed to have been hit by a truck and his body was torn to pieces. Unfortunately, there were no witnesses, but my father said there are only a limited number of large vehicles that pass through there, so the culprit will be caught soon. When I heard about it from my homeroom teacher, I was shocked. However, after school that day, a large group of us still went to that candy store. We may have been addicted to moon choco. When we got to the store, the door was tightly closed and there was a sign posted that read, "Closed." Sorry. We were more shocked than when we heard the news that Kita had died. After all, they couldn't eat moon choco anymore. It seemed like they had become addicted to it. Afterwards, Kita's funeral was postponed. Rumors spread that it was because they had not found his head. In the end, the funeral was held 5 days after the accident. I also went to the funeral, as I was good friends with him in the same class. I couldn't give up my addiction to moon choco, so I went to that candy store every day, but it remained closed. It had been 10 days since the accident. I decided that today would be the last day, so I went out alone. Then, the glass door was shining white. It looked like something was going on inside the store. I crawled down and peeked through the small gap under the door. I could see that machine emitting light. And I told you before that there is a glass ball at the center of that machine. There was a person's face inside it. It was Kita. The moment I thought that, his face opened his eyes. I ran away without looking back. I only saw it from a small space, so I think I must have misunderstood. Such a stupid thing could never happen. About 2 weeks later, I went back to the store with fear and trepidation. The building was gone, and it had become an empty lot surrounded by wire fences. Plus, the truck that hit him was never found. Since it's been 50 years since then, it's already past the statute of limitations. Well, that's the story. And, while it's unclear whether this is related or not, there was an explosion at a chemical plant near the port during that time, and it became as bright as day at night. There didn't seem to be any casualties. So, I can't help but think there's a connection between Kita's death and him winning the moon chocolate raffle. So I didn't buy the hero animation card because I felt kind of sick. Kita's head could have been the heart of that spaceship and really told the moon.